welcome everyone to today's session. My name is Meherzad Pantake and I'm a part of the CloudThat team. We have with us Sandhya, who is going to be the moderator for the evening, and she'll take care of all the questions. We also have with us Himanshu, who is going to be the speaker for the evening. Now let's start off by giving everyone an idea of who we at CloudThat are. CloudThat is a training and consulting company. We were founded in the year 2012. We have trained over 7,000 plus professionals in the last 5 to 6 years. We provide training and consulting services in cloud, big data, and IoT domains. We at CloudThat have a dynamic team of certified professionals. We basically focus on quickly empowering IT professionals and organizations to leverage cloud and data. We have a robust consulting division that complements our trainings. We also have a global presence in consulting and training market. Now, let me give everyone a brief idea of who our speaker for the day is. Himanshu has been architecting and developing IT applications for over 11 years and has been working in cloud computing domain for about 7 years. He is an expert working on various cloud platforms, including Amazon Web Services, Force.com, Microsoft Azure, Google App Engine, and many more. And he has also designed large and complex applications for some of the major international companies. He was involved in algorithmic research during the early part of his career. He is currently working on architecting cloud strategy for enterprises which include, but are definitely not limited to, the latest trends in cloud technology such as DevOps, Chef, Docker, microservices, serverless, and many other. Himanshu has conducted trainings for organizations such as Intuit, Philips, Samsung, TCS, Infosys, Yahoo, to name a few. Himanshu is certified in multiple cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, as well as GCP. So without any further ado, now let me hand over the proceedings to the speaker of the day, Mr. Himanshu Sachdeva. Himanshu, please go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Meherzad. I hope you can hear me fine.
Yeah.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Himanshu, and in next 30 to 45 minutes, we are going to talk about some of the aspects of security on cloud. So the title for the webinar is Navigating Security on Cloud. This is going to be a semi-technical or partially technical webinar, and we'll talk about briefly what cloud is and what are the things you need to consider while implementing security on cloud. So let me actually show you the agenda for the day. So we'll start with why we need security in cloud. Like, cloud has been popular for almost a decade now. A lot of people are implementing it, and we'll talk about why security is of a paramount importance in the area of cloud. We'll see how market is reacting to it, what are some of the growth numbers and projections in terms of cloud revenues. We'll also talk about different types of security paradigms you need to consider when you think about security in cloud, and this is just not limited to the technical aspect of it. We'll also see what are some of the business side of it and compliance side of it. We'll also look at what is the role of your cloud providers or cloud vendors. Let's say even if you decide to go to one of the cloud vendors and jump into cloud, your organization is implementing cloud. So how much is your responsibility and how much is the responsibility of your cloud vendor? And we'll also look into the solutions provided by these cloud vendors. Apart from it, we will briefly touch upon some of the third-party companies that do provide solutions around cloud security. And to end the session, we'll talk about what are the different certifications available in the market which you can target, so that just in case you are planning to have a career around cloud security, you'll have an idea what to target. So to begin with, let's talk about what is the need for security in cloud, right? So cloud has been a buzzword for many years now. And a lot of organizations who are adopting cloud, most of them are on a journey even now to learn cloud and implement it, right? And as part of their journey, people tend to make mistakes. Even organizations tend to make mistakes. So that's why it's very important to understand the nitty-gritties and see what are the areas of concerns and what are the things to keep in mind while implementing or adopting cloud in your organization. Right, and the very first thing that I have on my list is regulatory, something which is not to all organizations, but still the large organizations, the enterprises, they do have to keep this in mind. Impacts their choice of cloud provider. So there's a very first thing organizations need to look into even before jumping to cloud, like if they're moving from their own data center to cloud, are they going to be still compliant as per their industry standards and needs? And of course, they'll look into the data privacy. Now, this has been a major concern for large organizations out there, because one of the common misconception is that when you are uploading or when you're keeping your data on clouds, it's shared with everybody, it's on the internet, right? So this is not the right assumption. In fact, if you go a little deep, we'll try to understand that keeping your data on cloud can actually provide you a better security. But for the time being, I'll just mention it as a concern because a lot of organizations, they have this in mindset. But at the same time, you have to configure things in a correct way to ensure that your data is kept private. Some of you might have heard some news articles or media stories over the last few years how some data breaches have happened even for the large organizations. But the fact remains that whether you are on cloud or outside cloud, you still have to keep security in mind, right? So data breaches can happen even if you are not on cloud. In fact, when you deal with cloud, you are provided and aided with better tools and more sophisticated tools to take control of your data privacy. Another thing related to compliance is cross-border laws. And this is something which a lot of organizations need to take into account. I'm sure some of you would have received certain emails in last month or last 2 months from the websites where you have subscribed to, and they would say, we have updated our privacy policies, we have updated our security policies. Now, by this was in accordance with a new compliance law called GDPR. It's issued for European countries. But the whole idea is that, when you keep your data or on a cloud, your data is subjected to the laws of that particular country. Let's say if you are keeping information about Indian citizens on a server which is not inside India, so that can be a concern because the data actually belongs to the geographical location and the country where the server resides. So at times it becomes very important to keep this in mind, because when you're dealing with cloud, you have a choice. You have a choice in hand whether you want to start your server in India, you want to start your server in Singapore or in US or anywhere else. So as long as you are aware that with the option, with the choice, that you also have certain responsibility to keep your customers' data safe and secure. So that'll give you better leverage, right? And of course, another major concern which a lot of people have with respect to cloud is lack of visibility. Now, this is changing over time, but I've heard from many organizations, they say, when the data is in our data center, it's in our office, we feel confident that, we control it, we manage it, right? When it's on a cloud vendor servers or storage, then we don't see the data. It's not in our office. We don't even know where is it, right? So we have even physical invisibility of the data center. So some people do have this as a concern, but from my experience, I've been working in cloud for quite a number of years now. I see this actually not any concern, not a concern anymore for the organizations who have already learned how to navigate cloud security, right? Because even if it's in your own data center, it does not mean it's safe. As long as you're connected to internet, you have all the possible attack vectors which can come to your data center. But you keep it inside your data center or you keep it in the cloud, you still have to ensure that you manage security around it. And we'll briefly talk about it and we'll see what are different possibilities here, right? So moving ahead, let's talk about why there's so much talks about cloud and security and cloud. So if you realize that, like I said, cloud has been there, it's a buzzword for last decade. Now, a lot of organizations which have been migrated to cloud already, or the ones who are planning to move to cloud, the next thing that they will focus on once they are on cloud is to ensure that they are safe and secure from the prying eyes and from all the bad people out there. Now, this is a report, was a screenshot from a market research company which projected that, how over the period of years, different types of cloud deployments, which is public, hybrid, and private cloud, are going to increase their spending in security. Now, we have already seen this increase happening, and it's in all three segments. The reason I wanted to bring it out is, like, when people talk about security, they majorly talk about public cloud because they think, our data is in public domain. But even the organizations who are dealing with private cloud, they are investing at the same rate as their counterparts in the public cloud. So regardless of the fact where you are deploying your infrastructure, where your security, where your data is, you still need to ensure that you have right security standards and you are, investing in your security products and services and framework around it within your organization, right? So if we take another research report and this is from Gartner, what they are projecting is that by the year 2020, the investment is going to go into multiple segments related to cloud security. Is software as services. The most common one are like email applications like Google Apps, Office 365, Gmail, and so on. Or there are some other web interfaces for applications deployed on cloud. Right. In each one of those areas, the inflow of revenue or investment, I would say, in this area is increasing by a good amount of factor. So whether it's in identity and user management and authentication, whether it's in vulnerability and security assessment, if you talk about security information and event management, which we have written which has seen here, all the areas the investment has been increasing, and because of which, as the requirement is increasing, as the investment is increasing, the job market is bound to increase. There would be more and more people required to manage and control different aspects of cloud security, right? So, having that in mind, let's try to look at what are the different areas where security. What are the different things? That's correct, perfectly correct from the technical standpoint. But overall in the industry, right, security has multiple aspects, right? From the governance. Governance is not just implementing, that it stays implemented, keeping an eye on it, ensuring there are no deviations from the desired security practices or standards, ensuring that the audit rules and audit policies are in place. In case something goes wrong, you should be able to go and check who was the person and when it happened and how it happened. So essentially, governance is one of the central key areas of cloud security, right? One is implementing the security, and the second aspect is ensuring it stays implemented, and that's where governance plays a large part of it. And of course, then we have legal and compliance. We briefly talked about it, and in one of my slides, I will also talk about what are certain compliances which some organizations might need to meet. So, but you have to ensure that depending upon the industry vertical you are into, you are meeting all the required compliances. This can be the placement of data inside a particular country, or this can be ensuring that your data stays encrypted as a requirement for certain compliance, let's say related to finance industry or related to the healthcare industry. So that also plays an important and significant part of cloud security. And it is planning and orchestrating your entire framework before you can actually go and implement those security controls. And most of the times when we implement those security controls, we talk about the third aspect here, which is infra and application security, right? So this is where most of the work goes from the technical folks, ensuring that your servers are secure, you have the latest patches, ensuring that your applications are not having any loopholes, or they are protected against SQL injection attacks, and so on, right? So there are multiple aspects of infra and application security. These two are in itself very deep topics, and there can be a lot which can be talked about them. But without going too much in detail right now, let me just briefly talk about the other things. And another aspect is ensuring the data encryption. Now, this is becoming a standard over the years, right? There used to be a time when people used to host websites which ran just on HTTP, right? So HTTP is a non-secure version of HTTPS, which is slowly becoming industry standard now. Everybody wants to go to HTTPS now. The whole idea is that we want to ensure that data in transit stays encrypted. Whenever you are sending your passwords or credit card numbers over the internet to, let's say, a payment gateway, you want to ensure that nobody is looking on to that data when it is in transit or moving over the internet, right? So same is the case for data access, something that you're storing in a hard drive or on a cloud storage. You want to ensure that it stays encrypted, and only the people who have the right access and passwords to that data should be able to see it later. And the reason why this is important is a lot of compliances, again related to different industry verticals, mandate that you keep your data at rest secure, you keep your data in transit secure. So that's another major aspect of cloud security. And I would say this is an aspect of security in general, because even if you are outside of cloud, you still have to kind of ensure that your data stays safe. And one of the things which not many people talk about initially is how to manage incident response. It's okay to have certain infrastructure and application securities in place, but breaches can still happen. Bad things can still happen, right? Your security can still be compromised because you not have thought through every possible situation here. And of course, when an incident happens, you have to deal with it. So along with implementing firewalls and encryption, you also need to invest into right kind of tools and processes around managing security incidents. How to detect when something goes wrong, how soon you can respond to it, how soon you can gather a team to fix it. Are there ways to stop the attack in case somebody is attacking you? Do you want to bring your website down in case somebody is still attacking you persistently? How do you handle with loss of data, right? So all these things need to be planned as part of the incident response. And again, there are different ways to handle it. Last but not the least here is identity. So essentially, as we are dealing with more and more applications online, whether these are applications for entertainment fun like YouTube, Netflix, Facebook, or these are business applications like Office 365 and some of the other Workday kind of applications, we need to ensure that only the right kind of people have access to it. The person who is authorized to see the information, the person who is authorized to modify the information, he is the right candidate. And as the number of applications are increasing on the internet, and also within the organization intranet, it becomes difficult to manage your passwords, and that's why a lot of organizations invest in adopting central authentication systems like Active Directory. But when we talk about public web services, Facebook, YouTube, and other things, although there are ways to manage your identity around it, but there are organizations who are kind of dealing with uh, providing you identity controls so that you can log into this public application even from your organization credentials, right? There are organizations like Okta and Ping, and there are major investments coming in this area as well. So all six of them put together, essentially, give you a very broad range of topics in cloud security, and it is a good idea to have knowledge about each one of them. But then, of course, you can choose your specialty area. You can be an expert in infra and app security, or you can be an expert in legal and compliance, and so on, right? So let's try to see what are some of the risks. And here we have already briefly spoken about some of the things. There can be things, data breaches, and these days we keep hearing about it, right? When you are in cloud, it becomes even more probable, or it becomes easier for bad people to gain access to your data in case you have not configured it correctly, if you have not secured it correctly, right? So this was a news last week that patient data from the Singapore government for a lot of their citizens was released online. And although data breach is a bad thing, but then from the past history and experience that we have seen that it's not just that particular security incident which looks bad. It's also when these hackers and these bad guys use that data in a wrong way. In the previous data breaches that have happened for a lot of other organizations, all this information stolen was used to do phishing attacks and doing cold calling and people and try to get some other information from it, sensitive information, or in some case blackmail those people. So data breach anyway is a bad thing, right? So of course there can be multiple other associated risks related to it. Another security risk when you are in is weak identity and access management. So it's like you are now in open ocean compared to a swimming pool. In swimming pool you have a limited it's in your limits. You can control and manage what happens there. But in open ocean there are a lot of other players and bad people as well. So ensuring that your credentials stay safe is your responsibility. Also, applications that you are deploying or that cloud vendor has deployed on your behalf, they should have around it so that its API version is not unsecure. And of course, it becomes easier, when you're on cloud, it becomes easier for people to start servers and so on. And one of the easiest ways is to take a standard operating system image that your cloud provider is giving you and launch an instance out of it. But sometimes you need to also understand that these images can contain malicious softwares, or they can be backdoor entries, or they can be other risks associated with it. So whether it's a system vulnerability at the operating system level, or if you're using pre-built applications by somebody else, so your application vulnerabilities, you need to scan them thoroughly before you start using them and for your customers. And of course, you have to ensure that your cloud account or cloud provider's management console is safe. So you have to ensure that it's not hijacked, because not only that somebody can access your information, but let's say if somebody hijacks your cloud account, for example, Amazon Web Services account, which can be used to launch multiple other servers that can further attack other organizations, right? So this can be a very bad thing, and this can result into a chain of events. So ensure that your account stays safe. It's one of the major risks, and there are multiple ways to handle it. Ensure that you don't have malicious insiders both at the account level or the operating system level. Another major risk is data loss, right? Like I was saying, the benefit that cloud provides is starting your servers quickly, creating your storage volumes and storage areas quickly. But at the same time, you can lose access to this data just by one click of a button. Deleting a storage volume is one click of a button now, right? So as you get advantage because of cloud, there are also disadvantages and risks associated if you do not handle it correctly. So ensure that you have the right kind of backups, you have redundancies in place, and you have processes in place to recover back from this backup data in case something goes wrong. Another major issue in cloud is denial of service, right? So for people who do not understand it, let me just very briefly talk about it. Uh, Denial of service is kind of an attack which people do on a target website, on a target web property. What they do is, like, these hackers, they would uh, launch a large amount of traffic onto the target website so that this website goes down and the real users face difficulties accessing this website. So we call it denial of service, right? Now, as it's becoming easy for organizations to deploy their websites on cloud, it's also becoming easy for hackers and bad guys out there to get access to systems and machines from which they can launch the attack, right? So again, you have to protect yourself, and there are a lot of tools available from the cloud vendors itself, whether it's Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, or a few more. They provide you tools out of the box that detect this, denial of service attacks and block it before this bad traffic reaches to your web server. And of course, we do have issues with shared technologies at times, because if everybody is using one set of tool or one set of technology and there's a vulnerability or there's a bug identified in it, it basically impacts everybody else out there, right? Everybody who has used it. And misconfigured cloud storage. And we have seen over and over again, wherever data breaches happened, most common reason is that people have not controlled the security of it properly. About a year back, there was a major IT company who, I would not take the name here, but their private information, confidential information about their clients was released because they kept all the data public in their cloud storage. It never occurred to them. They did not do it deliberately, but it was just a misconfigured cloud security. And of course, if you see, as it becomes easy for you to deploy applications on cloud, it also becomes easy for it to go out, just because of one error, because somebody who is responsible to configure networks, or somebody who is responsible to configure patching or deploy applications, forgot to take into account the right practices. So, and if I take example of some of the public cloud providers out there, from the software as a service domain, whenever there's an outage happens on Gmail, or let's say Facebook, or even Amazon Web Services, when these organizations release the report later at what really happened, most of these reports say that one of their employees accidentally misconfigured one of the application components or network components or server components, right? So as you can understand, when everybody is being handled by one cloud provider, and if something goes wrong with them, it impacts all those customers. So these are some of the major risks associated when you are dealing with cloud. And of course, each one of them have their own ways to mitigate those risks. Risks for ensuring, you are safe against data loss, you are safe against denial of service, and so on. Each one of them have their own ways of handling risk aversion, right? So let's also try to see, like, who is responsible for it. Like, is it us as a customer, or is it our cloud provider who is responsible for ensuring that we stay safe on cloud? And actually, the real answer is both, right? Now, this term is very common in industry. You would have heard about shared responsibility model, where you as a customer and your cloud vendor as a provider both are responsible for managing and controlling security on cloud. In fact, one of the very interesting sayings which I heard recently was, your cloud vendor is responsible for security of cloud, and you as a customer is responsible for security in cloud, right? So it kind of gives it in a very easy way. But as a diagram that you can see, depending upon which cloud segment you're using, if you're using infrastructure as a service or software as a service, the responsibility changes. When you're using software as a service, because your cloud provider is managing the infrastructure, managing your data, writing the application code, deploying that application, so most of the responsibility lies with your cloud provider, whereas your responsibility primarily lies about keeping your access secure, keeping your credentials secure, don't passwords and so on, right? But if you move towards the left, which is infrastructure as a service, this is where you are responsible for creating servers, installing operating system patches, and taking backup of your data and so on. So here you have more responsibility. So depending upon where you are, it's still a shared responsibility on both the ends, whether you are on infrastructure side or you are on the software side. Both you and your cloud provider have responsibility to manage security, but the amount of this responsibility varies depending upon what type of cloud segment you use, right? So, and of course, lot of these cloud providers, they try to ensure that they are following the right security standards and best practices which are available in the market, because of which they ensure that they stay compliant and certified by all major certifying agencies. And it's always good to first verify the security compliance of your cloud vendor before you start dealing with them, before you start using them. This is just a very quick list. So if you are in the payments industry, you are dealing with credit card information and so on. Not only your application, but your cloud vendor should also be certified with PCI compliance. Similarly, if you are dealing with health information, keeping information about the patients and their medical records and so on, you should be certified with HIPAA. Again, the certification is applicable for your cloud vendor as well. In case you are building an application for healthcare domain, your cloud vendor, let's say if you take an example of Amazon Web Services, they need to be certified with HIPAA, and on top of it, the application you are developing as a customer of AWS, you should ensure that you are following the right practices and standards laid out by HIPAA for the correct security, and the list goes on. So we have FedRAMP for some of the government compliance in case you want to deal with government agencies. Some of the countries like Germany has a C5 compliance, which need to be dealt with in case you are dealing with demographic information of German citizens, and so is the case with a lot of other countries out there. And of course, there are some standard certifications for managing security. ISO 27001, it ensures that you have separation of responsibilities within your organization, and so needs to be there within your cloud, and you have to use it correctly. Right, so the whole idea is that your cloud vendor provides you a lot of configurations and tweaks which you can control and you can manage, and you ensure that you are using the right values, right configuration, which your cloud vendor has provided to keep your data and information secure out there. Right. So going a little further, I wanted to briefly talk about some of these services. Like I'm saying here, cloud vendors do provide you security controls. For example, in Amazon or Azure Cloud, you have options to manage and create your own networks, right? So your cloud vendor provides you a way to create these networks, create firewalls, create routing information, block traffic which you are not you don't want to receive, block certain ports, and so on. So your cloud vendor provides you these security controls, but your responsibility is to ensure that you use these security controls correctly. You put the right firewalls in place, you have your route writing policies, you ensure your databases are not public facing, and a lot of other best practices out there. But the whole idea is that you have these options in cloud, you have a choice. Similarly, related to identity, you do have a choice to ensure that how many users to have, which users will have what kind of access. Somebody can have only read access, somebody can have only write access. You can have a central way of managing these user accounts using Azure AD or AWS IAM, right? So, and for sensitive type of, we optionally enable something called multi-factor authentication, where these users not only need to know their passwords to log into a cloud account, but they also are having a second factor, which can be SMS based or some OTP or some software token or some hardware token that they're carrying. So essentially, along with password, you ask them one more thing to ensure that these are the real users. So again, your cloud vendor provides you these options, but it's ultimately your choice and your decision whether you want to use these options or not, and how to use it and how to implement it. And there are similarly a lot of other tools which help you manage. So your cloud vendors do provide you an option to encrypt your data at rest, encrypt your data in transit. They give you multiple ways of controlling those encryption keys. This is just a list from Amazon Web Services, but similar lists do exist for Azure, Google Cloud, and other cloud providers. They gives you cloud vendors provide you a way. Most of them provide you a way in which you can inspect the security vulnerabilities in your operating system. So there are pre-built tools which your cloud vendors provide that can go and check and audit your operating systems and tell you, hey, these are 5 things which you should fix, right? And in some cases where you do not have access to these tools, or cloud vendors do not provide any such tool, there are third-party tools available. You can still go out on the marketplace and find similar tools out there that can do similar kind of inspections for the operating systems deployed on cloud. Right. There are tools again provided by a cloud vendor that help you manage audit trail to see that what user performed what kind of operation. This is very much important from the governance standpoint. You do have a way to monitor your systems remotely, because since you do not have physical access to it, you have to kind of monitor it remotely. And again, some of the cloud vendors do provide a way in which, if you allow them, they can scan your entire cloud deployment and give you suggestions around some of the weak security areas. And in AWS, we call this service as trusted advisor. Right. So again, reiterating the fact, when you are trying to deploy applications on cloud, when you are migrating to cloud, ensure and be aware that all the different tools that your cloud vendor is providing can be used to your need, and you should actually learn about them. You should learn their features and limitations and best practices before you use these tools. And like I said, there are of course other third-party tools out there which can be used with cloud. For example, you can use Cisco or Palo Alto routers or firewalls on top of cloud, even when you are dealing with public cloud vendors like AWS or Azure. If you want, you can use these firewalls and routers provided by your cloud vendor. But if you think you have very specific need, you can take these third-party tools out there and put them with your cloud deployment. Even things like Trend Micro, which is the company that provides antivirus and other security services. So they have specific applications for cloud. You have applications like OpenVPN that let you create secure transit tunnels from your office to your cloud provider. Right. So again, there are a lot of possibilities, and you as a customer should be educated well enough to use the right tools and in the right manner. Right. So coming to the end. So as an individual, you can learn all of it, but how do you tell it to your employer, or how do you tell it to the entire industry that you know about cloud security, you have managed cloud security, or you have experience out there? So there are different security related certifications available in the market. And the most common one these days is CCSK, which is Certificate of Cloud Security Knowledge. It's by an organization called Cloud Security Alliance. And recently this was rated as the #1 security which industry is recognizing these days. So a very interesting way to project your knowledge around cloud security. And if you want to go to the next level after you attain CCSK, you can actually go for the one you see on the top right side here, called Certified Cloud Security Professional, provided by an organization called ISC Squared. This organization has been there and dealing with security in general for a lot many years, and now they have provided a certification which you can take the exam and project your knowledge around cloud security. And of course, there's another one that you see on the bottom left here. It's called Professional Cloud Security Manager. This is by an organization called Cloud Credential Council, and they collaborate with a Dutch company called Exin, which provides a lot of further certifications. So again, this projects your knowledge of. So these three certifications, CCSK, CCSP, and Professional Cloud Security, these three certifications are vendor neutral. So when you take these exams or when you certify on these three areas, you're saying, hey, I know about cloud security, and regardless of the fact whether it needs to be done on Amazon, Azure, Google, or any other cloud, I should be able to handle it, right? So a very nice way to project your knowledge around cloud security. And recently we have seen that some of the cloud vendors have started coming up with their own specific security certifications. The one that you see here on the bottom right, it's called AWS Certified Security Specialty. And this is where Amazon Web Services provide you a way in which you can certify their exam and say, I know how to manage security on top of AWS Cloud. Right. In last few slides, as you remember, I've talked about different types of security controls that your cloud vendor is providing to you, and this certification from AWS projects that you have the required knowledge and best practices around those tools and controls that AWS has provided to you. Right. So that's very quickly what I wanted to talk about. And at CloudThat, actually, we have been dealing with security, and we have been, working around it. And recently, we have also announced a new course around CCSK it's called Certificate of Cloud Security and Knowledge Certification Bootcamp, where the whole idea is that for individuals who want to learn about cloud security and want to get certified, they can come and attend this course from CloudThat, and then they would be equipped to go out and write the certification exam. We are having our first batch for this certification on 4th and 5th of August, right? So, which is just, I believe, almost 2 weeks from now. So that's pretty much it from my side, and I hope you got the required and desired knowledge for at a very high level about how to approach security when you deal with applications on cloud, right? So yeah, and I hope you get a chance to use it. So at this time, I would request you, and I would like to get your feedback around this webinar. And so Sandy, if you can please share the link for the feedback. So guys, you would be able to see a link on the chat window, and it'll be great if you can write a quick feedback and what more you would like to hear from us. And at this time, I would open the floor for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Himanshu, for the answer. And another question by Rajiv is, for government cloud services, what kind of compliance are required?
All right, very nice. So one of the logos that I had on my website, it was called FedRAMP. This is one type of government compliance, specifically if we talk about US government. Now, lot many times the governments would like to ensure that their cloud providers are having the right security standards in terms of data security, access security, physical security of their data centers, network boundaries, and so on. So there are certain compliances available out there. I've just mentioned one of them in my presentation, which is called FedRAMP. But if I give you a quick background, so essentially, if let's say you take a cloud provider like Amazon Web Services, now they have one specific region or data centers that is available for the US government, where all these government agencies like Department of Education, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and some of the other ones, they can deploy and run servers, and they can run their applications on top of this. So now, since it is dealing with sensitive information, Amazon or AWS had to be certified on FedRAMP, where the certification is provided by the government defense agencies or security agencies, where they come and audit the data centers, they check the processes of the cloud provider, they check the security controls of the cloud provider. And once they're certified, then a lot of other government agencies like Department of Education and so on, they can be confident and they can, easily and more freely upload and deploy their applications on cloud, on that particular cloud vendor.
Yeah, thanks, Himanshu, for that question, for the answer. So, Savita has a question. What is the pre-requirement for the certification?
All right, so let me switch back to the slide that I was having for the certification. Now, these are 3 or 4 most common certifications available out there for cloud security. Now, for CCSK, for which we have also announced a course, for CCSK, there is no prerequisite from the security standpoint, but it's always good, like if you have worked in the IT domain and if you understand standard IT terminology and languages, like as long as you are working in the industry for a year or more, right? So that you should be good enough to at least understand and learn the basic concept. So there's no hardcore certification or hardcore prerequisite for CCSK. Apart from it, we also talk about cloud in general. It's good if you have an understanding of cloud, what cloud is, what public cloud, private cloud is, what is software as a service, and so on, before you can go and attempt the CCSK certification. In case you're coming for the course, then this is something that we would include as part of our course. So it's good to have basic cloud knowledge, but in case you are very new to cloud, so that's something which we can talk about. Now, coming to the other certification, if you see CCSP, Certified Cloud Security Professional. Now, for this one, this is a advanced certification, and I would recommend that before you approach this one, you clear your CCSK certification first, and that's also the prerequisite for the CCSP certification. There are a couple of prerequisites. You can meet any one of them, and one of the prerequisites for CCSP is to clear the CCSK exam, right? So that's the one. I'm not very sure about the professional cloud security manager, but I know the prerequisite for the last one, which is AWS certified security specialty. And if you want to go and take this exam, you need to have another AWS certification, which is called associate level certification. So as long as you have any one of these associate level certifications from AWS, whether you are solutions architect, developer, or SysOps admin, you can go and attempt this security specialty exam. So I hope that answers the question. Do we have any more questions, Sandy?
Yeah. So Ganesh has a question like, in India, are financial oriented companies moving their data to cloud because their main concern is security? And is this security solution satisfying the Indian banking customers?
Okay, that's a very good question. So I would say that most of them are now already targeting cloud. So when we talk about banking or financial institutes, most of the times, as it has been seen globally, they prefer a hybrid cloud environment where some of their part of their IT workload is on cloud and part of their IT workload is running on their own data center. But there are very few organizations which are completely on cloud. Uh, I don't know any specific bank from India that has promised to be completely on cloud, but there's one from Australia which I'm aware of. It's called Suncorp Bank, which have shown their interest and made a public statement that in next few years they will shut down all their data centers and will move to cloud. And similarly, we have been dealing and working with another financial institute and organization from United States, where a major workload for them runs on cloud. And so is the case with some of the Indian banks and finances organization as well. I heard uh, the Tata Finance or Bajaj Finance, these two are the ones which were already trying to move to cloud. There are few other organizations. I don't know their exact names, but some of them have shown their interest and are already in progress in their cloud migration.
right. So Himanshu, one last question. So Ganesh has another question, like which security certification is widely accepted by all cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, and Alibaba?
So if you want to work with all cloud providers or multiple cloud providers, I would say go with one of the generic certifications like the three I had on my list: CCSK, CCSP, and the third one. So essentially these are vendor neutral, and they would give you a broad spectrum and a broad idea about security in general. But if you are working on one cloud provider, I would say then along with the generic cloud certification. So for example, you can do CCSK, but if you want to also showcase your specialty and expertise on Amazon AWS, then it's better that you, along with CCSK, also go and attempt and write the security specialty exam from AWS. Now, I'm sure the other cloud providers will follow the suit, so there should be soon other security specialty exams coming from Azure and Google. So yeah, just wait for that. Right now, I think that's the only one I'm aware of.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, Sandy, for taking all the questions. So I'll pass it on to Nezad.
Okay, so thank you, Himanshu, for this amazing session. Hope everyone enjoyed the session. Now, as a token of our appreciation, we have decided to offer a 10% cashback on the training fee of our new course that Himanshu talked about, the CCSK course. So we will provide this 10% cashback for that training to all the attendees of this webinar, provided you register before 2 p.m. On 25th, which is 24 hours from now. So this offer stands only for 24 hours if you register. So as you can see on the screen, you can get in touch with one of our sales colleagues and they will definitely guide you through how the process is. So thank you all for attending the session. Thank you so much.